Well, we've got the cold front through, and now we've got some pretty chilly air that is moving into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, and it's all ahead of this weekend where it looks like a major storm is going to develop and head up the eastern seaboard. What does that mean for the East Coast, and specifically, what does it mean for those of us that reside anywhere from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England? Well, you know what? We may not have the answers, but we'll try and figure this all out tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. If you shop on Amazon, use our referral link pinned to the top of the chat board. And it's also on the descriptor to this podcast. You just use the link to get you to Amazon and buy whatever it is you're going to buy. Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there, and it doesn't cost you 1 cent out of your own pocket. It's a great way to make sure that the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, at least the live version, remains commercial free. And we thank those of you who have shopped on our Amazon link. And if you need a weather station, Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the descriptor to this podcast. Joe Rayo has the coupon code, which is
Autumn 2025. Yes.
And if you use it, you will get.
You'll get 10 big percent off.
Okay.
At this point in time, anything that's above 1% is big.
Well, that's true. At least if it's enough to eat the sales tax,
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Okay, so after digesting all the models today, I mean, it does look like we're going to be getting into some rough weather for probably late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and lasting right in through Columbus Day. It's been so quiet that we're just kind of going, every time we get the rubber band stretched to one end, it gets snapped back in a big way. And this system looks pretty potent. I think, Joe, there's still obviously there's still some unanswered questions regarding the what and whys and wheres. But it does look like it will be a formidable nor'easter.
I've never been able to understand what the correct pronunciation is. Is it formidable?
I've heard it both ways.
All my life I pronounced it as formidable, and then I saw somebody like 5 years ago say formidable, and I said, somebody's got to tell that guy how to pronounce it. And then other people said the same thing. So I don't know. But in any case, I agree with you. We do have, based upon, I've looked at the ensembles, most notably the European ensemble, which wants to bring this storm system, for all it's worth, all the way up to maybe south or central Jersey, and that certainly would be close enough to bring significant wind and precipitation to our area. The only thing I would be a little, if you and I, don't see eye to eye on one thing, you said late Saturday.
Late Saturday. Late Saturday night.
Yeah, late Saturday night. Well, I would go for more like early Sunday or midday Sunday, when the winds will really start.
Late Saturday night is early Sunday. When I think of late Saturday night, I'm going past the midnight hour. So I'm all right. So I should have said during the early morning hours on Sunday. 4 a.m., 5 a.m., that kind of thing.
Whatever. And what's interesting is that this gets all the way up to about South Jersey on Monday morning, and then instead of continuing on, let's say, toward Cape Cod and down East Maine and Nova Scotia, the models have this thing kind of slowing up, idling in neutral gear for a little while during the early and middle part of Monday, and then takes the track more to the south and east, away from the coastline. Right. So it's kind of like up and then like that. So I guess that's a function also of the attempt at the high pressure to the north, still attempting to block it off. But a lot, what's going to happen is going to be dependent upon, this system that's off the mid-Atlantic coastline and an upper level system that's going to be diving down across the Great Lakes, and the two are going to kind of coalesce or merge sometime later in the weekend. And don't forget also, this is a holiday weekend, Columbus Day weekend or Indigenous Persons weekend, whichever way you
It's
want to slice it. A lot of
it's
people are going to be
Columbus
off
Day.
on Monday.
I'm Italian. It's Columbus Day weekend.
It's Columbus Day to me too, and also to the National Weather Service, I might add. I mean, if you look at their forecast, their extended forecast, Monday is Columbus Day. So, well, whatever you want to dice it or slice it or call it, it looks like this will be impacting the holiday weekend in one way, shape, or form, mostly mid and late weekend, as opposed to the beginning of the weekend.
Right.
The best day of the lot will probably be Saturday, and then after that, we'll see what happens for Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, and this is not going to be like 8 hours and done. I mean, this is going to be probably 36 hours of wind and rain of varying intensity.
Right, right, absolutely. The system is going to be bringing significant wind and rain, and in spite of the fact that the moon will be approaching last quarter phase, and that usually means the neap tide cycle. In other words, the midpoint between the astronomical or spring tide setup, which would be the worst in this case. Still, with the intensity of what this storm system looks like on many of the models, uh, regardless of what phase the moon is in, this looks like one that's going to be bringing, uh, for parts of the Atlantic seaboard, significant coastal flooding and potentially beach erosion as well.
And it would be interesting if this were in December or January or February or even March, from a
Oh,
standpoint
well,
of whether it be cold and snow. Well, the other thing about what's going on ahead of this is that you have this big high that's going to be building in, and you're going to start with an onshore. Yeah, there's going to be an onshore flow for a good 2 days ahead of it, and that's probably going to pile some water on uh, along the coast. We actually have some coastal flood advisories that are up for parts of New Jersey and for Delaware because of the full moon coming off the full moon and this developing northeast flow. But having that fetch out there going on for a couple of days certainly is not going to be helpful. The other question I think is, and this will be an interesting one from the standpoint of rain. This low is starting out east of Florida, and it's going to be basically over 27, 28 degrees C water or even higher in some instances as it moves up. Now, granted, a lot of the intensification that we're going to see is going to be caused by non-tropical factors, but I got a sense here that this is going to be maybe some kind of hybrid type storm.
uh, yeah,
And
in
I
other
say
words,
that because if you look at the precipitation field and you look at where the heavy, the models are showing that this cluster of very heavy rain for say southern New Jersey, Delaware, and the Delmarva Peninsula, sort of over and west of the low center. So it almost looks like, in a way, it looks like almost like a little comma head that forms. So I'm just thinking that maybe there's going to be some tropical moisture involved, and somebody's going to get clobbered with some big rains out of this.
hey, the thing is that I'd like to see all of the models more or less on the same page, but we still have the Canadian model, which is kind of trying to keep
Oh,
this
that,
the
that's
worst of the storm out of our area.
yeah,
And did
that.
you notice that the NAM,
Go ahead. I'm sorry,
the
Joe.
NAM, the 84-hour NAM is much slower and much further to the south as compared to the global models, the GFS and the European. Now, admittedly, the European especially would like 50 some odd ensemble members should be the more powerful and more accurate, but still, you kind of like to scratch your head and say, why is the NAM so far south by late Saturday night, early Sunday? You'd almost think that the storm was not going to be moving this far north, but there's still some question marks,
Yeah,
at least in this forecaster's mind. I did not go whole hog. I did say windy conditions or increasingly windy on my Facebook forecast for Sunday, and just flat out windy for Monday. and the possibility for precipitation, I've got it from late Sunday into the first half of Monday. As far as amounts are concerned and how intense the rains may be, I
Not
still
sure.
would
Yeah,
like to
of
hold off on
course.
that
I mean,
conclusion.
as I said before, the where's, why's, and what's are not going to be answered tonight. I mean, it's probably going to maybe on Friday we could start maybe zeroing in on that. One other thing to mention that's also be part of this equation is Tropical Storm Jerry, which is going to be is forecast to become a hurricane and turn along or just to the west of 60 degrees west, moving up almost parallel, with the non-tropical system to the west. And Jerry being out there actually acts as a block, keeping this. Otherwise, this low would just probably the upper low would just probably slide all the way south and then push everything out to the east, well to our south. So what Jerry does, I think, is going to be very important ultimately as far as how far north this thing gets.
Right. It's
Because
going to be,
while it's out there, the low can't really move east.
absolutely, absolutely. So we have some. Could we call that the X factor or the unknown factor
Yep,
or the wild card, if you will, as to
yep.
how this is all going to pan out? And these are things again. We're talking about Sunday, and here we are on Wednesday, so we still have a good 4 days before this thing is here for us to consider. And a lot can change between now and then in terms of the track, the strength. I admit that this does look like a potential problem for our area for the upcoming holiday weekend, but still, all the specifics are not yet in yet.
I agree. Welcome tonight, everybody that's on the chat board. We've got a nice crowd tonight, and those of you lurking in the background, including Bill Goodman, who said he would be lurking in the background. Bill is going to join us tomorrow night, Joe. So just so you know, we're going to have Bill Goodman on here tomorrow night.
Well, that's great.
It'll be a
It's been a while.
yes.
Welcome back, Bill.
It's been quite a while. We're going to have a meteorological threesome, so mark it down. Bill will lend his expertise. For those of you who don't know, Bill is one of the big cheese forecasters over at the National Weather Service in Upton on Long Island. So he certainly would be able to lend quite a bit of insight into all of this, which he usually does. And for those of you who are, by the way, as I said, big hellos to everybody. Uh, we'll probably be adding some shows. But we'll let you know tomorrow what we're going to do here with respect to this particular storm. But I got a few ideas. I'll talk to Joe after the show is over, and then we can sort of figure it out. So look, subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And if you like the show, hit the like button. So let's get started. And before we get into all of whatever's going to happen this weekend, we have the next couple of days. And interestingly enough, we've got a large area in the Northeast from Pennsylvania up to Maine, and including all of Connecticut, the Hudson Valley, Rhode Island, northwest New Jersey, the northern half of Pennsylvania, and then more of Pennsylvania on the western side, like almost all of western Pennsylvania, is either under a freeze watch or under frost advisories and even a few freeze warnings. Same goes up into New England. This is, at least in terms of timing, we're talking around, this is going to be Thursday night into Friday morning. Uh, it's probably around the time when you would normally start to see your first frosts and freezes at least away from the coast.
Right. I said on Facebook, in fact, that that there could be freeze and frost conditions north and west of 287, not necessarily at the southern end of Westchester or along the Sound Shore, where temperatures will probably be holding at around 40, which is still pretty darn chilly. Chilliest temperatures I think they've had so far this season. But to the north and especially inland. Now, the thing about tomorrow night that's going to be interesting, Joe, is we're going to, it's a freeze watch. Are we going to get very cold on cold air advection, a gusty wind, Or will the winds die off quickly after midnight tomorrow night, which would then lead to a widespread frost come daybreak on Friday morning? Again, no matter which way you cut it or slice it, we're looking at the coldest night of the year coming up tomorrow night. Some places up in the Hudson Valley area, especially north of 84, I could see getting down as low as 27 or 28 degrees by Friday morning. By far and away, the coldest temperatures we have seen so far this early fall season.
Meanwhile, we don't want to leave out our friends in the Southwest because we've got a chunk of Southern California, the eastern part of southernmost California and the desert areas, and a good chunk of the state of Arizona, about half the state of Utah and southwest Colorado, all under flash flood watches. And this is from moisture of Hurricane Priscilla in the Pacific that's going to be streaming up into the southwest. And they're looking for, some of the rainfall amounts, and we'll show you what WPC has, looking at some 4 or 5 inch amounts of rain, I mean, that would sort of be the equivalent of like 10 or 12 inches here in the Northeast at least.
Yeah, it's a tough situation when you get that much rain, and at a time of the year also which is usually very dry and also very warm. September, October is the time for the Santa Ana winds to blow, and normally at this time of the year you would expect temperatures across much of southern and central California and on into parts of the desert southwest to soar, well into the 90s and maybe even close to 100 degrees. But here we are now in the early to middle part of October, and we're dealing with flooding conditions instead. And so that's a kind of an unusual situation that's going on out in the southwest, courtesy of the remnants of Priscilla.
And in the meantime, the rest of the country is just pretty much on the quiet side. And here's our satellite loop tonight. The cold front. That front last night produced a decent amount of rain for you.
I didn't check my rain gauge, which is not really working at its best, but I think many places in and around the tri-state area picked up at least a quarter of an inch to maybe a half inch. I did not check the exact figures on the rain, but it was coming down in spurts. I mean, 6 o'clock this morning, it was raining to beat the band. Half an hour later, it petered off to a drizzle. It even stopped for a while around 7 in my area. I said, "Oh well, maybe this is it." I didn't look on a radar, but boom! About a half an hour after that, it was coming down again, really hard. So, yeah, we certainly could use every drop. We are in a bit of an exceptionally dry spell here in my area, and just to the north, up in portions of New England, especially southern Vermont, they're in a severe drought, and they could use, and we could use a lot more in the way of moisture. I think we're down like, I'm not sure, it's anyway like 4 to 7 inches below normal in terms of precipitation. So it was nice to see the rains this morning, and maybe, just maybe, if we get that storm, that coastal system to come far enough north, we might see not 4 or 5 inches, but certainly a goodly amount of rain coming our way, perhaps for later in the weekend into the start of next week.
You can see Priscilla, by the way, on the lower left, southwest of the Baja Peninsula, moving northwestward, and there's some lead moisture that's already moving up into portions of southern Arizona. At least some clouds that are starting to move in there from south to north. Much of the country tonight, though, is mostly clear, which is nice. The front has made it all the way down to South Georgia and to the Gulf Coast. Just inland of the Gulf Coast. I had about a quarter of an inch of rain last night when the front went by, and it's nice. Turned mostly sunny, down to 68 right now. Didn't get much out of the low 70s here because we did have clouds for at least, I would say, 2/3 of the day before the skies went nice and blue, and I've got some nice cool weather with 40s coming at night here for, I think, not tonight, but Thursday night, probably right through Sunday night. So I'm kind of happy about that. When I say here, it's North Georgia. That's where where I am. Radars aren't doing very much tonight. A couple of sprinkles in upstate New York, a couple of showers and a thunderstorm or two in portions of coastal South Carolina and into southeast Georgia. We have some showers and storms back into New Mexico and in eastern Arizona. But the rest of the country is high and dry and quiet. WPC has no severe weather indicated for the next three time frames. So tonight into Thursday morning, Thursday into Friday, and Friday into Saturday. Tomorrow we'll have Saturday into Sunday, so maybe we'll get a little bit of idea where they might stick a little bit of convection in places to our south. And here's the WPC latest rainfall forecast, which is relied more on the overnight runs than on the day runs. But I don't think they would have, maybe they would have had a little bit more, but an inch and a half to 2 inches being indicated. Obviously, all of this is going to be from the coastal storm over the weekend. Southeast New England, Long Island, central Jersey and point south, and then you have this area of red of about 3 inches touching southern New Jersey and down into the Delmarva Peninsula, and then continuing right along the immediate coast of southeast Virginia into eastern North Carolina. Some heavier precip on the order of 5 to 7 inches or more there's an area that's touching the eastern shores of the Delmarva Peninsula. So again, how this low tracks and how this all sets up, we're probably going to see some more adjustments with respect to that particular the rainfall forecast. Meanwhile, in the southwest, you've got big amounts being indicated, several to maybe as much as 5 or 6 inches of rain in some places across Arizona, as well into southwest Colorado. Rainy weather in the Pacific Northwest on and off for the next 7 days. Northern and central California, actually much of California is going to get some rain, but we're looking at the northern half of the state in an area of about 3/4 of an inch to areas of an inch and a half plus in the Sierra Nevadas, in northwest California, and then up the Cascades. We're probably going to have some snow in there up in the Cascades. Let's take a look at Tropical Storm Jerry. Tropical Storm Jerry. We've got Tropical Storm. I think we have warnings up now for the leewards. No, still have a tropical storm. Tropical storm warnings are up for the leeward. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Hang on. Tropical storm watches. Yellow is the watch. Blue is the warning. I thought so. And you can see the forecast track here is basically west-northwest to northwest. It recurves. They got it recurving right around 62 degrees west or so, becoming a hurricane. And by 2 p.m. Sunday, it's southeast of Bermuda. And by 2 p.m. Sunday, there's probably going to be some kind of low sitting just east of the Virginia coast and still inching northward. So you can see how the two are just kind of, we mentioned earlier how that the hurricane being out there effectively, at least initially, will keep that storm along the east coast from moving out. Now, if Jerry underperforms, maybe it doesn't develop into a hurricane, maybe it just gets to a tropical storm, that may have some impact. Maybe if it gets to more than just a minimal hurricane, if it gets to maybe a Cat 2 or even a borderline Cat 3, some of the model guidance is showing that. That could also have an impact on how the coastal storm winds up behaving. So, and the other thing we should look at too is let's look at Priscilla in the Pacific. And the headline says Priscilla bringing high surf and gusty winds to the Pacific coast of Baja, California, and moisture from Priscilla will increase the risk of flooding across the U.S. desert southwest late this week and through the weekend. And here's the forecast track for Priscilla, which will weaken to a depression, but all that moisture is just going to get funneled up to the northeast over the weekend. And also, we should look at WPC's got a flash. They have the flash flood potential up, at least for now. You can see a very large area of a slight risk, which is a 15 to 40% chance, covering a good chunk of Arizona into Utah, southwest Colorado, as well as southeastern California. So a fairly serious situation. Here's for them, and they have the blue as a 2 to 4 inch band, and they got a little dot of yellow in there right in the middle. They don't have enough cities to let us know where that is. Doesn't look too far from Flagstaff, but this is a this is really a sizable rainfall for them. It's a big deal for the Southwest to get 2 to 4 inches in one fell swoop. So let's look at
I feel
what's
bad for
happening.
the people.
Go ahead.
I feel bad for the people who might have decided to go on a vacation and see the Grand Canyon. My wife and I, in 1985 BC, before children, we went on a trek to Arizona, and one of the things we did was see a meteor crater and also the Grand Canyon, and it was right at this time of the year during the first or second week of October. And it's, as I said, it's lovely to go out there now, usually, but this is a very anomalous situation, and I can't even think about what it would be like if I, had rented a place in the Grand Canyon, staying there, because the worst thing that you possibly could have is clouds, low clouds, and spurts of moderate to heavy rain at the Grand Canyon. This is not a good time to be in Arizona.
No. So our upper trough is moving through now. That's bringing in the shot of cold air, and that trough pulls out, and here comes the powerhouse. By the way, you'll notice that there's a leftover trough in the southeast. Okay, so let me just mark it for you so you know what I'm talking about here. Right in here, probably even a weak little upper low that's sitting over South Carolina and Georgia. And then you've got this tight, wrapped up upper low dropping into Minnesota and dropping southeastward. And on the lower right, you can see the upper air feature that represents what'll probably be Hurricane Jerry. So the northern feature's coming in, the southern feature's kind of hanging there, and that northern feature drops down and basically just picks up the southern feature and lifts it up northward and pretty much swallows it up. And you've got a cutoff low in the upper atmosphere that by Monday morning is sitting right over southern New Jersey before it gets pushed out to the east, southeast of Cape Cod. Now, this is going to be key in terms of how this storm behaves, because if, for whatever reason, if that upper low were to drop further south, you could certainly make the case for that whole thing to get maybe shoved a little bit further south and east. That's certainly still possible, but it also is a very vigorous feature that is going to be energizing this the way non-tropical systems are energized. It's going to be interesting for me. It's going to be interesting to see if the Hurricane Center says anything about this. So far, they're not saying anything.
Well, maybe I don't know if they would, even if they would allude to. Did they? They didn't allude to that system a couple of weeks ago, did they? That was
No.
a cold core system, so there was no reason for them to do that. But this is different. As you pointed out, it's a larger scale system as opposed to a couple of weeks ago, and certainly it's close to being a warm core as opposed to a cold core. I mean, there's a cold core. The core is much smaller, the cold core for this system, as opposed to what we had 2 weeks ago. And maybe they might make an allusion to it.
Well, if you look,
I really don't know.
no, I was going to say, just if you look at the GFS, okay, and this is what I was saying earlier. You see how those two areas of yellow and red representing the intensity of the heavy rain. Uh, Here it is when it's
Yeah.
Sunday morning southeast to Hatteras. I mean, that's got to be convection that's going to be wrapped up around that center. That's why I'm thinking that you might make the case that this could be subtropical, or you might make the case that it might be some sort of a hybrid. That seeing if this were a non-tropical, you'd probably see maybe heavier rains banded east-west, where it looks more frontal. And also, by the way, this low is starting out, at least from the standpoint of some of the models, it's actually starting out in the Florida Straits, and then pops up east of the Bahamas, and then just starts shooting northward because it's reacting to that upper low coming down. But again, that's why I'm kind of looking at this and thinking, there is going to be some tropical influence on this, at least initially.
Well, any kind of tropical influence. If you get any kind of tropical rain or showery tropical rains, you're in for a period of very heavy precipitation. Looking at the extended forecast from WPC, the forecasters, again, as was the case yesterday, Santarelli and Jackson, they are now saying that what they're going to do is they're going to extend the heavy rain signal further north than the previous shift, and they have opted to extend the day 5 slight risk northward to along the coast to New York City to account for the potential. So what they're thinking at WPC is that there's the possibility that right along the Jersey Shore up to New York City, and probably that would also include parts, if not most, of Long Island, the potential exists on day 5, and that's Monday, for excessive or heavy rainfall. So we'll see. Now, since I'm here in the lower Hudson Valley, that we probably will get rain, but whether this goes even further north than we think now, and whether or not we get into heavy rainfall up here, that's still yet to be determined. We'll have to wait and see.
I just want to acknowledge Paul Roman before the show started hit the super chat tip jar. Thank you, Paul. And Andrew Winters, I think you're new to the chat board. Welcome. And thank you for hitting the tip jar as well. Persistent onshore flow for days. How do you expect the coastal flooding to get along the New Jersey shore? We talked about this at the beginning of the show with regards to the fact that we are going to be in an onshore flow starting Thursday and going, particularly going Friday and Saturday, and we're coming off this full moon, so tides are high as it is. Yes, I mean that's going to pile the water, on near the coast and make it higher than it otherwise would be. So it is going to have certainly some impact to elevate uh, coastal flooding and also the potential for beach erosion. And if we look at the GFS, you would just kind of figure out that sometime early Sunday morning, probably maybe the early morning hours of Sunday in southern New Jersey, 1, 2 a.m., and then maybe around 6 or 7 a.m., the rain reaches New York City and Long Island and points north. And you see the wrapped up low and a lot of isobars that are wrapped around it. You got a 1030 high sitting just east of New Brunswick and a 990-ish low just, east of southeastern Virginia. That spells trouble as far as wind is concerned. I kind of tend to think that if you want to just grade the worst of the wind gusts based on what we're looking at now, I would think it probably will be the Jersey Shore down into the Delmarva Peninsula. I think that's probably where we're going to see the worst of the wind. That's not to say that the winds aren't going to get strong for Long Island, but they just might be a little bit less if we assume that this is the track. Now, if it winds up that the low goes all the way up to the south shore of Long Island, like it did yesterday, then we may have to elevate the idea of stronger winds even in the areas in coastal southern New England and Long Island. But just based on what we're looking at right now, you can see what the GFS did, and then it turns it, almost straight east. We still have some rain going on Columbus Day, although it'll probably be lighter, and we'll probably have to wait until Tuesday to see some genuine improvement. The European today, I'm hesitating to hesitant to look at the 18Z European because of the fact that it's been somewhat squirrely the last few days. Still trying to trap the storm down off the South Carolina coast. I don't know if we'll take a look at it in a second, but this was the 12Z European. And again, here too, you've got the low starting out in the northern Bahamas. You can see Jerry to the southwest, moving northward, and then suddenly there's your coastal low. Kind of spends a little bit of time rotating around itself along the North Carolina coast near the Outer Banks, and then this arm just kind of lifts up. The Europeans got maybe a little bit more of a frontal look to it, as opposed to what the GFS has. As I was talking before about, an east-west band of heavy rain, you can see it there from eastern Virginia across the Delmarva Peninsula and then going out straight east over the ocean, as opposed to having this, one big cluster sitting around the center. and the low just sort of spirals counterclockwise around itself. Rain gets all the way up to almost to Plattsburgh on the European, and then we spend the day Monday. It'll still be windy, but the rain looks like, at least on the European, wants to taper it off a bit. Still some bands in there that are swinging around. And then finally, the surface low goes out to the east and southeast, and then eventually goes northeast up toward Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, which, if it does that, would be good because there's been a big drought up in that part of Canada. So if it works out, that they may wind up getting some heavy rains out of that. Um, so I mean, I think what you said is true from earlier. There's still a lot of uncertainty boxes that need to be unchecked over the next couple of days, with given all the pieces that we're dealing with here.
Well, I have we showed this last night, and I would want to show it again, the area of atmospheric energy, or omega. Usually you look for the bands or the contours of omega to indicate where the heaviest and most intense precipitation is going to be, and also sometimes in terms of the wind as well. And what I have right now, this is the time frame for October 12th, Sunday. This is as of 12Z, 8 a.m. And you can see at 8 o'clock in the morning that the immediate New York metropolitan area, Long Island, and tri-state area is relatively free of any omega. That's one of as I said earlier on in the show, I went for late Sunday into early Monday as the most likely time to receive any kind of precipitation. Now, from here at 8 a.m. on Sunday, you could see that by 2 p.m., look at all of that omega. This is the GFS now, and this is the 12Z GFS run from earlier this morning, the primary. And look how tight the contours are for omega. They're so tightly packed, it almost looks like a solid color here. And all of this is from the Jersey Shore to just to the south of Long Island. New York City, not into it just yet. However, look what happens between 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Sunday. Well, there you go. That's 8 p.m. Monday, at 8 p.m. Sunday, I should say, 0Z Monday. And you can see that is the time frame. 8 p.m. Monday, we're right in the thick of things, according to the GFS. Look at that band of heavy atmospheric energy, or that omega, which stretches from Philadelphia all the way up through Trenton, New York, most of southern New England, and then offshore to the east of Cape Cod and the islands. That's a band of potentially heavy weather in terms of rain and in terms of wind, and maybe some lightning and thunder too. And then as we go 6 more hours to 2 a.m. on Monday morning, take a look. We're free and clear of all of that atmospheric energy. It is now shot north and west. And notice also that whereas it was a very thick cluster, we go back here, look how tightly wound up the energy is here at 2 p.m. on Sunday, then at 8 p.m. on Sunday. But when we get to Monday morning at 2 a.m., it's not only well north and west of us, but it's also beginning to fall apart or beginning to diminish some. And look at that, Joe. By the time we get to 7 a.m. on Monday, all of the energy, all of the omega is gone. So what we're looking at, maybe according to the GFS, is an area of heavy-duty rain and wind, which will approach during Sunday, reach us by the end of the day on Sunday, and then very quickly diminish as we move into the late night hours of Sunday into the early hours of Monday. Now, that's the GFS. If we take a look at the European and take a look and see what they have in terms of the omega or atmospheric energy, you can see that they have the energy positioned to the south of the New York metropolitan area. Notice not as dramatic, not as tightly wound up as the GFS has. And then as we get to 2 p.m. on Sunday, just to the south of the New York City metropolitan area, entering Long Island, southern and central New Jersey, when we get to 4 p.m. on Sunday, the omega is now in and over, but again, not as tightly wound together as what the GFS is showing. And then as we move to 8 p.m. Monday, it's now moving just to the north of New York City across the Hudson Valley. And then very quickly, by 10 p.m. on Sunday, we have the area of omega well north and west and away. And just like the GFS, the energy seems to be diminishing some, although it moves to the west, and we still have a rather sharp line over central sections of Pennsylvania. And then that gradually diminishes and wears out by early Monday morning. So there you go. What this implies, or what seemingly is going to happen, is we're going to see quite a bit of wind and rain approaching from the south on Sunday, reaching us late Sunday. But then, while we have maybe a few hours of that, the intensity of the rain and the winds will perhaps diminish some. Maybe not so much in terms of the wind, but the rain. We'll see. So, and again, if it's as tightly wound up as the GFS, don't be surprised. We may have some convection to deal with. And if we get convection mixing in, we could have some places getting a lot more than what the forecasts, the QPF forecasts, are suggesting.
103 likes, Joe.
Oh, so for the first time in God knows how long, I'm ringing the bell not for anyone getting it on Briller Jeopardy, but ringing it for likes. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in tonight.
I've got the 18Z European. I don't really, after looking at it, I don't think it's that much different than the 12Z. Kind of holds the low down off the North Carolina coast for a few hours, and then it starts to move northeastward. It goes out and then actually kind of rotates back. This is what you're seeing now on the screen is Monday morning. And you can see these areas of, I guess this is convection here, these pockets of convection offshore and also back into southwest Jersey and into central Pennsylvania. Lighter rains over Long Island. I'll back it up. Just ahead of that, there's a surge of rain that comes in. Actually, it's got it raining on Long Island by 7 a.m. And then it just that area pushes northward. The low just kind of rotates around it. It's around itself, mainly because of how the upper low is behaving, and you can see it here. The low is also weakening as we go through the day on Monday and into Monday night. But still some bands of rain, even into Tuesday morning. There's still a little bit of leftover rain over Long Island and over coastal New Jersey before it finally pulls out and the low goes away and weather conditions improve. So again, there's still a lot of variables are still in the mix here. And I think we're just going to, obviously we still have another couple of days in order to figure this all out. But very definitely to me, it's just a very interesting situation all the way around. Again, I'm going to be curious to see if the Hurricane Center mentions this down the road or not, if there's going to be some warm coreness to it, if you want to call it that. And we'll have Bill Goodman here tomorrow night from the Weather Service, so he certainly could lend his expertise regarding that. So how about a little Briller Jeopardy tonight to wrap up the show?
Sure. Just hang on for a moment while I go to the Briller Jeopardy page. And this we held off on this last night. And Scott, if you're watching, maybe you might want to hold off on Briller Jeopardy for the next couple of days, because we may be busy talking more about weather than questions, Briller Jeopardy questions. And let me just find you here, Scott. Come on, I'm just getting I'm getting the buffer wheel here. All right, now we got it. Here we go. So on this Briller Jeopardy, average high temperatures in October for the following cities. And we will start with Atlanta. Joe, the average high temperature in October for Atlanta.
Well, by the end of the month, my head is not
Before
where it
before
should be.
before you get to your answer, Joe, let me just quickly answer a question that Tom Contino asked earlier in the show, and now he's asking Renata. Uh, the definition of king tides. What is a king tide? A king tide is supposedly the highest tide of the year. Now that's they're talking about king tides for parts of the Atlantic seaboard for this upcoming weekend, even though we have a quarter moon and not a full moon or a new moon, which normally would lead to astronomically higher than normal tides. But I think it's a little dangerous to say that these tides coming up will be the highest tides, the absolute highest of the year 2025, because next month, I should say, at the full moon that we have in November, I think that's November 5th, we are going to have a true super moon. The moon will be coinciding within a few hours of perigee, and that will mean that the tides, the astronomical tides, will be the highest of the year. That's in terms of numerical figures. And if we happen to have a big coastal storm in November, those may turn out to be the highest tides of the year, and not necessarily the ones we're about to see in the coming days ahead. But anyway, the term king tide means that when you look back on a specific year, 2025 in this case, the king tide was the highest tide recorded for a specific area. And again, some are already saying that we may see a king tide this weekend with this upcoming impending. So it could very well be. But again, when you take into account that the astronomically higher or highest tides of the year will be coming in early November, if you were to factor a storm like this, if we were to get another big storm early next month, those could be the highest tides and those could be the king tides of 2025. Anyway, so what's
Average,
Atlanta, Joe?
average.
I
Before
think
I
it's
answer that, Stan on the chat board just hit super chat. Thank you very much, Stan. Says longtime follower and Patreon member. Yes, you are. And just wanted to buy you a cigar and thank you for the detailed analysis as always. Old school meteorology. Well, that's pretty much how we do it here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, Sunday through Thursday at 7:35, which is additional shows that may be added come Friday and Saturday and Sunday. I will say 74.
where's the bell? There you go, Joe. You hit it right on the nose tonight. 74. We move on to
Awesome.
our next city. That's Austin. Austin,
Austin,
Texas.
Austin, Texas. Hmm.
Yes.
It's always kind of
Hmm.
funny about Austin, Texas. It stays warm in that part of Texas even into October. I'll say 81.
Very close, Joe. Slightly too low
Well, Patrick Darcy and Rich Rothmansky and
with that 80.
CWTR Shark have 82. So does Frank R. and Adam Lowe. And
And
Gerasimos Stasinos. Gerasimos Stasinos, 82.
Stasinos?
Or Stas. I'm just going to go call him
I
Stas.
haven't seen a name like I haven't seen a name like that. I haven't seen a name like that since our
Well, it's Stas
I haven't
Holonicus.
seen a name
Yes,
like that since
exactly.
our mutual friend at City College.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they all say
But
82.
82 is snake country.
Okay.
82 is snake country.
Chuck Cardillo and
Info
Latex
Macro,
Streams at 83.
83 gets the bell. And by the way, Chuck Cardillo earlier in the show said, Joe, they had a solid 2 inches up where he is in the Catskills
Yeah,
last night and this morning
some
of rain.
someone on my Patreon page, on my subscription page, told me up in Bergen County in New Jersey where he is, he had over an inch of rain last night. So some spots did well, last night with the rain. Well, next
Yeah.
one,
How, how about how about Balmer?
Baltimore. Ooh, Baltimore. Um, hmm. I'll say 68.
Where the hell is the bell again? Joe? out of 3 so far. Amazing.
Wow.
68, right on the
68.
nose. How about in how about in Alabama? I've been to Birmingham. I don't know if you have, but I have.
Well, all right. So, what did we say for Atlanta? I forgot. 70,
74.
74. I'm really tempted to say the same thing because
Yes.
they're not they're sort of on the same latitude. What the hell? 74.
Well, it was a good guess. A little bit too cool. But we already have winners on this. We have Harold Olson and Michael McGuire, 76, and so is David, 76. So there you go, 76 degrees average temperature in October, average high temperature in Birmingham. And number 5 is Boston.
Boston. Um, hmm. Boston. Uh, I'll say 65.
Oh, I thought for a second you were going to get it right on the nose. A little bit too high for Boston.
Okay. Anybody on
But
the
we do
chat
have
board get it?
a winner on the chat for the Boston winner. Yes, we have Patrick Darcy and Christiopedia and CWTR Shark. All of you with 64, 62, I should say. 62. That was
62.
the average high temperature in Boston at this time of year. And here's the bonus: Sault Ste. Marie, or Sault Ste. Marie.
Uh, hmm. I'll say double nickels, 55.
A bit too warm, Joe. A bit too mild there.
Okay. Well,
Christopedia says, "Where is that?
the
Where
very
where is
tip
Sault
of
Ste.
the
Marie?"
it's the very eastern tip of the upper peninsula of Michigan. It basically sits in Lake Huron
Yes.
and Lake Superior on the other side. Okay. Anybody get it?
2 people I can see here. 3 people: Mike Waterhouse Bonsai, Frank R, Maggie P, also Infomax, and Mike Waterhouse Bonsai too. Again, 52.
52.
52 for the average high temperature in Sault Ste. Marie in October.
And yes, Tom Contino, that is lake effect up there, big time. Uh, very much big
And
time.
Joseph Gaffney, Hugh Gaffney too, 52. And
Okay.
latex streams. So
All right. So yes, David Scott, WCBS News Time is 8:30,
news
and
time is 8:30.
yes, and it is time for us to go. And we appreciate very much those of you
I'd be
who.
very excited. I'd be very excited if we can get Rita Sand to come on one night. Look at that, Joe.
uh,
Joe fainted. The mere thought of Rita Sand being on the Joe and Joe show has Joe fainted away.
yeah. All right. Everybody have a great night. Joe and I are going to figure out what we're going to do here for Friday and in the weekend, and we will see you all tomorrow. Right?
We'll be here.
Okay. Night, night, everybody. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.